morning, good afternoon, good evening. I don't know when you're going to watch this video, but today you have a special guest, a very special guest. Why he's a special guest? Because I truly believe that when we want to understand what's going now and maybe what's going to be the future, we have to understand the past. We have to absorb the knowledge that some people have. We have to understand the story of the facts, how things were created, the logic, the foundations of how we do things today in order to improve it, in order to create something new. And our guest today is nobody less than Lee Lambert, one of the guys who created the PMP certification. The guys created this story, he guys know the story, he lived project management in the beginning when we were trying to turn a project manager as a profession. So this is what we are going to do today, to talk about the story of project management as we know today and what's going to be the future according to his point of view. Lee, thank you very much. Thank you very much for a legend like you accepting our invitation and for being here in our show. I just want you to introduce yourself, just 30 seconds, 1 minute, where you come from, where you are, what you're doing today. Please introduce yourself.
Sure, thank you. Right now I do basically speaking around the world in support of the project management process and PMI. I came from an engineering background and converted over to a project management lecture, I suppose you'd say, in about 1984. And that just coincidentally timing of the introduction of the PMP, I felt like once that was introduced, and after 3 years of pretty focused attention on that, that I would, instead of being in a corporation, I'd be working for myself. And what I found is it's very satisfactory to be able to know that I can have an impact on people's lives. And I get all kinds of notes from people about how I changed their life and how it gave them a new, well, it's all project management. And that's really all I talk about to my classmates, is that they need to understand the value and the benefit of project management. Once they do that, they become committed, like so many millions are now, to this process that has become a profession called project management.
That's it. That's why we met in Riyadh in May. And when I saw you, I just came across you and said, oh, thank you very much for your contribution, your career, for our careers. That's what I told you in May. And one curiosity that I have is today, everybody, the new generations, we, for example, I'm much younger than you, of course. I started my career as a project manager, PMI was there, APMI was there, the IAPMG was there, and APM, everything was there. The guides were there, they were established, but in the 60s or 70s, there was nothing there. And you're already there managing projects, organizing projects, and doing things. How was the environment of project management on that time?
Well, the part of the problem was everybody sort of operated on their own. It was a lot of ad hoc. People that are, in the business of getting things done really developed their own techniques for doing that. And they worked for them, but they might not work for someone else. And so we found that there were lots of project managers practicing project management, but doing it on an ad hoc basis and things that they had developed for themselves over time. And our hope was that we would get, by being a profession, get some consistency in the tools and techniques so that everybody can take advantage of these concepts, not just isolated cases where someone's taken advantage of them. So The 70s were tough. We formed PMI 69, and the first 10 years they were tough. We had to fight the recognition issue where people didn't really understand what a profession was. And so it took a lot of public relations time from these five founders, especially because they, at the time, there's probably 100 members of PMI. And so they spend all their time marketing essentially because they knew that there were techniques and concepts that would be applicable for everybody. So they spent most of their time trying to convince people to become a organized project manager.
Hmm. And what were the sources of knowledge that you have collected to create something? Okay, these are the practice, these are the sources. Is there a kind of places or books or any other source that knowledge that you could put together to create PMI?
Yeah, what happened was people who were understanding of what project management was gravitated to PMI, joined PMI. They could see the value of it. And those people, like I'll name some names, Max Weidman out of Canada, and guys like that, really began to write standards, began to write white papers that eventually became sort of our early stages of a PMBOK.
Hmm.
Became the place where we gathered all this to do items together. And that was used, those were used until 1996 when we
Yeah,
published the
first
first,
version of the PMI.
first
First,
PMBOK. Yep.
yeah.
So for years, for almost 20 years, we were operating sort of by shoestring, if you will. Just we had a lot of information, but there was no formality to it. So if people wanted to see, well, how do we do scheduling? You have to get a scheduling paper from the PMI tomb and show them. So they recognize the importance of that, but it took them well until '96 to get that book formulated. Now, the thing that's interesting to see is that first PMBOK was 119 pages. We
919 pages. Yeah, I have
119,
this first version. I have this first version with myself. I
yeah,
have it.
I do. I guard it with my life. And when
Next
we
time I'm going to
finished,
see, next time I'm going to meet you, I give my copy to sign.
hey, there you go. Good idea. Yeah, when we published PMBOK 6, the sixth edition, there were close to 800 pages.
Ah,
And so that's what happened. Well, it turns out there's a lot of people that know a lot about project management, and they all wanted to have their name in the PMBOK sixth edition. So they all,
yeah, my name is there. My name is there.
oh, I'm sure it is. Most of the people that we really counted on for inputs, they're in there, and people don't realize that, especially in the beginning, PMI was just totally a bunch of volunteers trying to make the world a better place.
Hmm.
And it was later on before people became committed to the idea that we do represent a profession. And so that's what's happened in the transition time is that people have recognized because of the five founders, the emphasis. And I do want to point out that I only knew three of the five personally. Uh,
Really? I thought you know
yeah,
what. Can you list the five just to register here?
yeah. The other two were both. I think they were both in pharmaceutical, along with Snyder, but never. They're not. They weren't as active, but publicly as active. And one was a lady, and they kind of were in the background. And so as the organization developed, you saw the Jeanettes and the Davises and the Snyders sort of became the pivot point for people that want to grow. And I had the opportunity to spend time with all three of those guys. And I got to say, they're pretty darn smart. They
What was the
really,
greatest challenge to create this first version on that time? The greatest challenge.
well, there's really two. One is creating it is certainly a challenge, but two is there anybody going to read it? We had to make sure that it was recognized as something that could be utilized as a standard. Of course, now we're all ANSI standardized and all that, but at that time we didn't have any of that, and
Yeah.
so we had to count on the fact that the people in the profession would recognize the value of having a document that people could refer to in the way they ran projects, and more importantly, the way they taught others to manage projects. And so even here in my home chapter, we're celebrating our 50th year here in Central Ohio. There were only 4 chapters before us, and our chapter was started. It was chartered in 1975, but it was started before that by an Ohio State professor,
Wow.
Desmond Cook. He wasn't a project manager, he was a professor, but he happened to be very in tune with project management, and actually began to teach at the Ohio State University. So he got our chapter started. Now we're at about 2,000 people, because the more you have the standardization, the more people join the organization to take advantage of that.
Mm.
And mainly they join to network with other people, to share knowledge, to be able to show ways of improvement. And as we've moved into these new technologies, the agiles and now the AIs and whatever comes after that, you need to have that core base that understands the fundamentals of project management before you start applying all the fancy stuff.
Yeah. And how was this process of spreading the message globally? How these things really grew up globally? It must be hard
Yeah,
on that time. There was no internet, there was nothing on that time. There's no videos, nothing like this. How was the process of spreading the message all over the world?
there was a very strong emphasis on on missionary work, if you will, uh, spending time with the leaders of organizations to answer their questions about project management and
Hmm.
why PMI could add any value. So we did that probably for 3 or 4 years. We encountered most of the major corporations in America, got time with some of their decision makers. And finally, in 1996, and I think this is what did it, when we published the PMBOK, the first PMBOK, all of a sudden, AT&T, IBM, Motorola, Sprint, you name all the major corporations in America, embraced the PMP concept. The
This is like
PMP,
a strike in bowling, just like a strike in both major
yeah,
corporations.
it just
Message
all the
came
wind
out.
started to fall down, and what we found was they had convinced themselves, once we had the standard, that was good for their corporation. And so I know I personally trained thousands of PMI of IBM people and thousands of AT&T people, and they were all there. It's a dual purpose. They were all there to learn how to manage projects, but they were also all there because their corporation had said the PMP is a good thing. You probably should get it, and
Great.
that's what.
This is something magical that you did, my friend. And when
Yeah, it
when
was.
when the idea, yeah, when the idea of creating the certification, the PMP certification came out, because first we have the guide, and then came the certification. How this process of creating the certification, or what came first? The idea of certification to create a professor, or the PMP, the PMI, the PMBOK, and then the certification? What came first? How this process happened?
A lot of people don't understand this, but we went live with the PMP certification in October of 1984. Okay,
Before the PMBOK?
12 years before there was a PMBOK.
Wow.
So, so what had happened
You
as
blew my mind now. You blew my mind now.
I know a lot of people don't understand that, but we still had well, we had
But
smart
really,
people.
really, 12 years before the first version of the PMBOK, you're already certifying people in PMP, Professor?
That's right. That's exactly
Oh
right.
my God. Tell me this
And
story. I want to know this story.
yeah, well, it started like this in the early late 70s and very early 80s. The same group of people came up with the idea that, hey, accountants have their private certification, engineers have, everybody's got it. Why don't we have it? So we said, another way they'll take us seriously is if there's a chance for them to get certified, some way to be able to say they really understand this business. So we spent. I was one of five that started in '81. We started working on the certification. We were led by a guy from Western Carolina University in Cullowhee, North Carolina. All of our meetings were held in the beautiful area around Gatlinburg and those places. So we'd always meet there. And two professors at Cullowhee, John Adams, who just recently passed away, and Dean Martin. Dean Martin was our project manager, and there were four of us that became the project team, and we spent 3 years putting that program together. People say, well, what's the big deal? It's just a test. No, you have to have qualified to take the test. You have to have the test. You have to have the evaluation of the test output. Yeah, I mean, it's just a huge job.
Yeah.
And we finally finished in a way that we could roll it out at the what used to be just called the National Symposium in where were we? We were in
This
Philadelphia.
was 84. It was in 84.
Right?
You finished in
Yeah,
84.
84 in Philadelphia. And we only offered it at the National Symposium for several years, just once a year. So you had one shot to get certified. Then if you didn't, you had to wait the whole year.
Oh,
And so we had 55 people signed up and took the first exam, and 39 people passed the exam. That was back when it was 8 body of knowledge areas, and each body of knowledge area had 40 questions. So there's 320 questions, and
wow.
you had all day to take the exam, and they do 4 body knowledge in the morning, 4 in the afternoon. And if you pass all
Total
of them,
350, 350 questions?
320 questions.
20
Uh,
questions. And people are complaining about 200 nowadays.
I know exactly. That's what I thought of that too. But of course, we gave them the whole day versus 3.5 hours now. But once we got that and then publicized the result, all of a sudden there became higher interest again by the major corporations, because it became, and I hate to admit this, but I think everybody would understand, it really became a marketing thing for these big organizations, because when they were in a bid proposal, if they could propose a team of people that were certified project management professionals, that gave them a stronger scoring on the bid package. So from their standpoint, they certainly wanted to do a better job of project management, but from their standpoint, it became almost mandatory that you have a certified project manager as the lead for any proposal. And that continues to today. A lot of the people that we certify now, that's one of the reasons they're getting certified. Some of the organizations have tied higher level salaries to being certified. In the early stages, I personally sold the Sprint contract, and in the early stages, a certified person got a $5,000 bonus for becoming.
Wow.
Well, they realized fairly quickly that was going to be expensive, so they stopped that. But there was for a while an incentive, a financial incentive to become certified. Now the financial incentive is you get about a 30% pay bump if you are certified versus a person who is not certified. So they're
Hmm.
still getting some revenue realization, but it's coming through their work environment instead of a bonus.
Yeah, well, we are millions now, and we are millions.
Right,
Yeah,
that's right.
oh, you're millions now. I know. I think it's around 2 million people around this. I don't know the numbers exactly, but it's
It's 1.7 million.
1.7 million, close to that. Yeah, active certified or total certified?
Now, that's a good question. I just got the answer to that myself recently. There are about, I'm going to estimate here, 800,000 inactive.
Inactive.
So we've had a total of about 2.5 million become
Mm,
certified, but only 1.7 of them are
but
currently PMI members and keep it active.
it's a good number. It's a good number. It's a great. I think it's most famous certification in project management. Is very useful today. I got mine so a long time ago, but it's okay. And do you remember the name of the first person who passed the exam? The PMP one?
Yeah, Eric Jeanette was the first one.
Oh, really?
He sat for it. A friend of mine was number 13 that I convinced to take the exam. But I don't know the whole list. I probably used to know it, but I don't know it. But I know Eric was number one.
Wow. And do you take part of this process of creating PMBOK 2000, 2004? How things were evolving? How do you feel? I think we need to improve something. We need to change something. How is this process of evolving the PMBOK and the process itself for certification? How did you realize that this process was growing and growing and growing?
Well, it was because the way we still do it this way, is that we form a good sized committee, and that committee then gets input from other potential contributors, and then they have the job of evaluating and putting it all together. So every 4 years, you'll see some significant changes in the PMBOK because they find someone that has a better way to do something. But we have to be careful to not go away from the standardization. That's why being ANSI approved is important, because you can't start changing things and maintain your ANSI certification. So, but it's still all done by volunteers. The entire process in PMBOK 7, when we changed from the process orientation to the principle based organization, that was because some people with strong wills thought it makes more sense. I happen to be one that I think that was a good move. It sort of threw people for a loop because it changed. It was a significant change, uh,
Yeah.
and uh, and I think you'll see in 8. Although I've not seen it, but it's been out for review and it's being published soon. Is that they go back to a process, more of a process orientation, because what
Yeah,
ended up
I talked to Michael Hannon. You know Michael Hannon? Yeah.
uh-huh.
I
Yep.
talked to him yesterday in an interview like that, and he took part of the core team for the Pinball 8, and we were talking about this, and he says that many things will change
Yep.
again.
Yeah, I know that for sure. I try not to get involved in that because I it's going to keep changing. I mean, I'm not, my opinion's not going to make anything last forever. And as long as I always get to review it, uh, and as long as it still has the principles, the structure's not nearly as important to me as it might be to other people. But I think PMI has to maintain it because of all their associations with these other certifying bodies. They just don't have an opportunity to make major changes.
Mm. And when did you realize in your team realize that yes, we did it. We created something different that will last forever.
I think that also occurred in the '96 timeframe, when we saw major corporations adopt our
Adopted.
process, it became pretty clear they were convinced it had value, and they were convinced enough. They paid people's way. They gave them time off to take the exam. So we were pretty sure we had a winner at that time. But we never. I mean, frankly, I get this question all the time. We had no thought that it would become what it's become. I make a point to give a personal note of completion if someone gets their PMP. And I'm doing right now, I'm doing 8 to 12 of those per day. So that's just the ones that I see on LinkedIn. I can't get them all because it's private information. But if they post on LinkedIn, then I send them a congratulations note. So if I'm getting 8 to 12 of those a day, then you gotta think, well, that number's got to be up in the 20s and 30s and 40s every single day. Now I'm seeing people in India. That's our second biggest market right now. People from India are commanders in the Air Force, jobs that really aren't project management jobs. So now we see that the certification carries so much weight that even if you're not a project manager, you want to be able to say, I understand project management. So it's growing. I've predicted 2 million by the end of the decade. Might not be that high, but I think it's going to be close. But you got to remember at the time, that was the only certification in project management that existed. There's plenty of them now. There's all kinds of them, but the reason those got formed was to make money. All of those people are capitalizing on the opportunity to make a little bit of money. Money wasn't even in the back of our mind. So it's gravitated to, well, what we all call, well, not maybe all, the goose that laid the golden egg. And we had no thought of that in the beginning. But I remind Pierre every once in a while that without the PMP, there is no PMI because there's no money to operate. And now that we've gotten so big with almost 800,000 members, it costs a lot of money to keep this volunteer organization running. So people say, oh, PMIs wants money. No, they just want money to operate, to improve the process, to give you better opportunities. So I think that the criticism, and I used to be one of them, the criticism about PMI being money driven is wrong. It's off base. The profession right now is represented by a first class organization, and we're making attempts now to sort of well, to the extent possible, join forces with IPMA, join forces with APM. I mean, we're all quote selling the same stuff, and so why not be consolidated? But IPMA was just a little bit ahead of us in organization, not even a year, I don't think. But
Yeah,
they
I'm 65, and you were creating 69.
Okay, so that's good. About 4 years. So they've got 4 years of development ahead of us, and they had a certification process that they've now worked up. It's tiered. So different. If you're an entry level, you'd be one. If you're a senior level, you're another. I think that's a good idea, to tell you the truth, because just because a person has a PMP doesn't mean they're a good project manager. Doesn't mean they've proven themselves in the field. It means they're smart. It means they can take a test and pass it. Well, a lot
Yeah.
of people get through college the same way, and when they graduate, they're dumb because all they did was get through the test. And so, but nobody seems to want to pay attention to that. I think there should be another grade of expert, if you will. I don't know how would you, but expert, someone the minute that you get engaged with them, you're talking to someone who's been there, done that, and had projects that they've run, big projects, multiple unit projects. But right now, we're going through a little space of credibility, because some of these test taker PMPs get a job because they're certified, and then when they go out to do the job, they blow it. They really don't know what they need to know, and I take the blame for that, because in the beginning we decided that it would take 90 points to qualify, and there are three categories: service to the industry, education, and gosh, I forgot the third one. We had three of them, and you had to total 90 points. Well, one of them was 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 service to the community. What have you done to the community? The other was experience. Duh, was experience. So, but the problem was, and it's my fault, is that we said 3 years of experience would qualify you to take the exam. Well, 3 years of experience isn't much.
Isn't
When you
much.
do
No, isn't
project
much. It's
management, yeah,
depending
it's
depending on the project that you are doing. Depending, okay, I can have a 3 year experience for a small projects, and it doesn't mean anything.
yeah, and so that person goes and gets a job and doesn't do well. Well, the credibility of the whole certification is impacted by that person, because now the management starts to say, well, wait a minute, what's the big deal about PMP? I mean, we've hired two of them and they both failed. So they fail not because they're not good project managers. They fail because they've never really
Mhm.
had the experience
Mhm.
of managing projects.
Yeah. So, do you think the requirements for applying for PMP are still valid today?
Yeah, but they've changed from what I had to a much more sophisticated. I mean, I
Yeah.
used to be responsible for grading all and I could do it myself. Now we have to have a team of people do it, and they give them such a good read that I have friends that have received notice that they didn't qualify to take the exam. And
Really?
so it turns out, yeah, it turns out you start to look at exam application preparation is a big part of the game.
Yeah.
If you don't qualify, then you don't get to take the exam. So a lot of people didn't take the time that they should have to develop, and so when they reapplied, they looked at. I mean, back when we did it, you didn't have to have any confidence that that all this was true. If they said they ran projects, then they signed a thing that said they're not going to lie, cheat, and steal. So you got to put a little faith in humanity. But now they ask for recommendations. They ask for names of people they can go back to and confirm your work experience. So it's a much more sophisticated application at
Mm.
this time. But people have put there's so much importance on it. It doesn't matter. People want the PMP. I mean, it's just unbelievable. The attitude people about. I went to India last April, and I said I'll come to India, and let's make it a big deal, and they can come get their PMP certification from me. I'll personally hand it to them and congratulate them. Well, we put that on the street in India, and by the time we did it on April 6th, I had to present certifications to almost 400 people.
Wow.
400 people came just to see the person supposedly that created the PMP. They've made me a living legend. It's unbelievable what they do. In fact, I have to watch the publicity, because sometimes they say founder of the PMP. That's not accurate. I'm a founder. I'm one of 5 founders, but I'm not the founder. So I
The
have to try
founder.
to correct that, because Pierre kind of pointed out to me that makes it look like I'm the only one. I said, yeah, you're right. I tell people that, but some people don't pay attention, so I have to correct them. But you know, I mean, I take that as an honor. There's no doubt about that. The one thing that is true is I'm the last living person that had any involvement with the PMP.
And how do you see the evolving of the career of project management throughout this year? How do you think the profession evolved? How do you think how the importance of project management in companies in the world now from that time to now?
Yeah, I think what did that are failed projects. I think when people saw losing money, losing reputation, credibility, uh, high impact stuff, they started to ask questions about, well, how can we improve this? And almost invariably, the answer was project management. If you get good project managers, you're going to cut down on failure. You're not going to eliminate failures. You're going to cut down on failures. You're going to cut down on financial losses. And people started to embrace that. And as they hired good project managers, they began to see, well, God, that's true. That
Mm,
if we give these people the opportunity to do what project managers do, their projects come in better. Now, there's a problem that still exists. That's a huge problem, and that's the matrix. Because what happens is we may have a it depends again on PMOs, but we may have a PMO that's set up to provide the organization project management capabilities. But when it goes to needing certain technical disciplines, we don't own them. We get them on loan from the matrix home. And now either we got an education gap, or we sometimes have a skill gap. But the other problem we have is we don't have control of that resource. And so
mm,
because my organization's doing 4 projects, that poor person has to support 4 projects. Well, that means I don't get them 8 hours, I get them 2 hours.
right.
We gotta, and project management, the only way project management solves that problem is have dedicated project teams. And that's become less and less prevalent because that's expensive too. And so it's really some organizational juggling that gets done, and the PMO is kind of targeted to keep more focus on what it is we want the outcomes of these
Mm,
projects to be. So I think we're going through, I think people looked at some of this new stuff as like the new shiny thing. Agile, that's a new shiny thing. AI, oh my gosh, is that ever the new shiny thing? And so everybody gravitates to it, tries it, sees it's good or isn't good in their mind, and then draws back to the old standard. So I think as we evolve, you'll see organizational modifications. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be project management like you and I know it. It's going to be structurally oriented, maybe a little different, but the root cause of why we've done it is to get projects done on time, on budget, on scope.
yeah, well, I think this process evolved that along the time, I think we were more able to manage more complex projects that we did before. Today, more people can manage more complex projects than we were before. Okay. And on that time, 60 or 70s, just a few people could do that. But nowadays, a lot of people can do that. I think this is the great benefit that we can gain from that. I think we spread this knowledge, we spread this profession, we spread this practice, and so more people are able to manage projects better. That's the thing that I see in the companies, I see in my trainings, because people are getting more knowledge, people are getting more ability, skills to develop this thing. So I think this was the greatest contribution that this APM, IPMA, and PMI they did. They say, okay, now we can do that. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I think, well, I sold the Sprint contract, and I sold it on the same terms you just described. They said, well, we just want to run our project managers through it. I said, well, you'd be much wiser to run more people in the organization. So we've got continuity in communication. We know the terms and terminology, and
We know that
they
we talk the same language. We are talking the same language right now.
exactly, and that's what I tried to convince them of that, and ultimately they did. And then I was teaching there, and I probably had in one. Well, I taught there for 2 years, and I must have taught 3,000 people, and I think only about a third of them were actually project managers.
Mm.
All of the rest of them were members of a project team, but they weren't the project manager, and it paid huge dividends to Sprint. And so, but that's the only company I was able to sell that idea to, although IBM did a lot of that as well. You can see the advantage. Motorola did it, and it just, their project teams work much more effectively.
Uh, do you have any notion of who created this idea because of initiation, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling, closing? Who has the idea to create these processes that some people call phases, but it's not phases? The process groups. Remember, I think it was something related to Bill Duncan or something like this. I don't know who created this idea because start in initial phases of the PMBOK, you have this kind of organization. And what was the reason to do this?
Yeah, well, we kind of chatted about that a few minutes ago. In the beginning, it was a group of people that had high credibility in running projects. They began to form this process that said, what's the life cycle of a project look like? What are we doing in those phases? And you're exactly right. Bill Duncan was a major player in the initial PMBOK creation, and certainly in developing the five planning phases, the five phases that we use in the PMBOK, that became the standard. I mean, that was how
Yeah,
people taught the process. Here, are you in planning? You're in controlling, and so that's how the PMBOK sort of evolved that way. So when we went away from that concept a little bit in PMBOK 7, that's why it freaked people out. I mean, we had that beaten into our heads for years, the phases. And so between Weidman, Archibald, and Duncan, people like that, we have to give them credit for really being the drivers behind what we've evolved to.
really. And as you said, after the 2000s it became agile and things like this, and we're going to reach AI in a few time. But what do you think about the discussion about how do we traditionally did projects in before, and then people say, no, agile is everything. I personally, I don't believe on that. I think it's just another way of doing things, but we can mix and put everything together. What's your point of view, this evolution? Because I think there is a hype. There is a hype. Okay, we have to do this. Everybody has to do this. And PMI incorporated the agile because it's inevitable. We have to adopt this practice. But in the flex model here that I created here, I don't think there is something really pure predictive and pure agile. I think there's always a mix of many things. What's your point of view of that?
Well, yeah, well, I agree with you. In fact, you'll see in the quote industry, we're moving to that idea, and we're calling it hybrid.
Yeah,
We're saying, well, this project's not agile, this project's not predictive. Well, it's got a little both. Yeah, it's a hybrid. And so we see that more and more. I don't have a problem with that. I remember back when there was no PMBOK back in the 60s and early 70s. We just did it the way that worked. And I know when I joined PMI and started to look at what they were saying, I could see variations from what I did, but basically I was already doing it. And so
yeah.
it just took a matter of saying, okay, to be consistent, I'll call it this. And it meets the criteria. And but PMI's put in a bad spot. Anybody that forms a standard is that it has to be standardized. It can't have a lot of room for this and that, because then it's no longer a standard, it's a menu choice
Yeah.
that you have to make. And so I think that, but more and more, you're going to see these quote hybrid projects. I know I do a lot of speaking for chapters, and I do anniversary stuff. I've done 5 of them this year, and 4 of the 5 were hybrid anniversary. I mean, I had 400 people in North Carolina, and that didn't count all the people online. They're doing their projects live and agile and through the computer, through virtual. And so you see more and more we're saying, because of the pandemic effect, people have learned they can stay on their couch and still get information that they used to have to go to meetings to get. It's a
Yeah.
big problem. Big problem. One of the biggest chapter in the world went from 12,000 members to 9,000 members during pandemic.
Wow.
That's a big drop. Okay. Now they're regaining those. They're going back and engaging with those people. But that's what happened. Almost every chapter lost 10 to 20 to even 30% of their membership to the idea of virtuality. I personally don't like it, but I understand it. And so I'm doing a Keystone in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. They're doing theirs, and they said, they said, I don't even know if we'll get 20 people. We got about 2,000 members. I said, what the hell are you talking about? They said, well, people just aren't coming. They aren't coming. Well, we got to create some reason to get them there. So it's a problem. But once you start doing your project work, you got the same issue. You got to decide, how am I going to go about this? And if it doesn't need Agile, doesn't benefit from Agile, don't use it.
Don't
Why?
use it.
I mean,
Yeah.
use what works. And so we're moving into that, where we got a standard, but let's call it a flexible standard.
That's why my model is called Flex.
Yeah, I like it. I like
Yeah,
it.
that's what's called Flex. And actually in Flex, I started creating Flex. I used the name Flex Hybrid Model. And nowadays, I don't use it anymore. I don't use it. I just say that it's a Flex management model because I didn't want to create another niche. For
Yep,
example,
exactly.
this is going
Yep.
to be hybridists against the predictivists, and then against the hybridists. So no, don't do that. Just manage and deliver value. So everything is management. Everything. I don't care if it's agile, predictive, or hybrid, whatever. It's management. It's like if you were cooking, for example, I don't know if you like to cook or not. When you go to a kitchen, also, I need to prepare a cake. What kind of silverware do you take? He doesn't think about it. Oh, it's a fork, it's a knife. I don't care. I just go there and take it. You see that? If you, oh
Yep.
no, I don't do pasta. What kind of silverware? Is it the same? No, it's different. And you don't care. This is gastronomy. And you go there and take whatever you want, whatever you need to do what you have to do. And this is cooking. And just like the same thing. I don't want to do, oh, silverware, the fork is better than the knife. The spoon is better than the fork. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in my point of view. That's why I stopped saying hybrid. I just do management. Do whatever you want, use whatever you want, when you want, flexibilize everything you need according to your context, and deliver the value that your clients expect. Period. That's it. Period. We don't have to create these niches. We don't have to create this, oh, this is agile, this is that. No, everything is management. This is my point of view, Lee. It's my point of view.
Well, I think your point of view is well taken. I do want to point out to you that we were always told in the beginning that the PMBOK is nothing more than a guide to the body of knowledge of project management, which is right
That's
in line with your thinking. Because what I always tell my people, I don't teach much anymore, but when I used to teach these, that's exactly what I would tell people. You're not tied to anything in this guide. These are giving you ideas of things that have worked in project management. You still have to make the choice of what you want to use. And so somehow, though, people's thinking has gravitated to we're saying use this or use that. Well, that's not at all. That's
no.
what a guide. It's not the body of knowledge, it's a guide to the body of knowledge. And once
Mm.
people get that in their mind, then they can understand. But we don't ever say the guide. We just say the PMBOK.
Yeah.
We don't point out to people, this is not God's law. This is what we see that will work in these situations. I remind people of that. You can use something that mixes the two. You can use a
Yeah.
hybrid model of agile and predictive, whatever. Do what you
Whatever, whatever. Use it,
yeah,
whatever is available for you, whatever
yeah,
is available for you, and you can change some things. For example, some people say that when you use sprints, you cannot change the lengths or durations of the sprint. I don't care about it. If I need to change, I change. If you change,
yeah.
no, you can't change. You can't, you can't, you can't, you can't. Of course I can. I can do anything I want.
Yep,
The
that's right.
my there is a all the trainings that I do, I always say my context, my rules. I don't care
Yeah,
what's written on the guides. If, for example, PMBOK says that it's a good practice to create a WBS, what if I don't need it? I don't do it. It's a good,
yeah,
okay. But if I need, I use it. I certainly use it sometimes, but not always. Not always.
yeah.
Not
No,
always.
I understand.
That's the point. This is why I call it flex because I can do whatever I want. I can put together many things that I want. Just like this I call this, Lee, ecosystem. It's a value ecosystem. In the flex model, we talk about a value ecosystem, and this is what's represented here. See that? It's a value. Here you have one stakeholder, here you have the government, but here you can have the scope, time, cost in your process, human resources, marketing, developing IT. It's an ecosystem here that you're trying to manage. This is an ecosystem. And I see a project and also our organization as an ecosystem. And some weeks ago, I wrote an article about we have to stop managing projects. It's very serious. We have to
Hmm.
start managing value ecosystems. Because when you're involved in a project, you don't have a project itself. There are many things around the project that can contribute to it. And your project is involved in many other parts of your organization or in the country, whatever it is, that you have to think about this whole ecosystem to deliver the value that you want. And in this concept here of value ecosystem, I don't care if it's predictive, agile, sprint, scrum, PMBOK, whatever, whatever. Think about this ecosystem and try to assemble all the pieces together and deliver what you have to deliver. Period. That's it. Simple like that. It's not so
Well,
simple, but it's my point of view.
we're at 11 o'clock. I need to get off, but let
Yeah,
me say this. I think this, what you've described as ecosystem, is really what the PMOs of the future are going to address.
exactly.
I've seen some books. I'm good friends with Laura Barnard, who's one of the people that really endorse that value thinking. So I
Yeah,
think we're heading in that direction. Uh, I think it's really an outgrowth of the output versus outcome kind of idea. My project's got to be managed from an outcome perspective, not an outcome or not an output. I mean, if you give me a project that has no value, then why did we do this project? So what
yeah,
they're saying, if we use that kind of a value concept, we're focusing on what it is we want to get accomplished by doing this project. I think it's going to make it.
that's great. Wow, it's a lot of stories, isn't it? Lee, we are getting to our time here. I appreciate a lot your availability to come here and spread the stories, spread this knowledge that you have. I hope you have liked this video. If you didn't watch this video, other videos that we have in our channel, please go there. There's a lot of chance to learn something from our videos. Lee, just 30 seconds to say goodbye and leave a message for everyone here.
Yeah,
No, no, I have one question before. I have one question before. One question.
sure.
Do you have 3 more minutes? 3 more minutes? Do you have it?
Yeah, we'll milk it out. Sure, why?
1 minute. Okay. If you had a chance to go back in time and change something, what you could do in this process of spreading the message? It's a tough question. It's a tough question.
Yeah, it is.
What-
I've thought about this a lot. I think if I could change anything, I would change the qualification application to take the PMP exam.
Okay, that's good. I have to think about it. Okay, just final words. Thank you very much again. If you want to send a message for us, just do it right now. It's your chance.
No, I'm very comfortable with your ideas and concepts. I guess because I'm in agreement with a lot of them. I really think that people that have been there and done that will have the same mindset we do, because you learn just because it's in a book doesn't mean it'll work for you. You got to do what works for you.
That's it. My contacts, my rules.
Exactly.
My contacts, my rules. My friend, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it a lot, and I hope you have liked it. Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
See you.
Hope to see you in Phoenix.
Yeah, I hope so.